So, the shortcomings of interviews in employee selection and assessment. So, the academic research overall is very supportive of their use in employee selection. Huge meta-analyses and systematic reviews have been conducted on the interview method, and overall very supportive. In fact, the research seems to suggest that they're among the strongest predictors of performance that we know of. So, the shortcomings of interviews don't extend to their utility, which is very well supported and justifies its use very, very clearly. The biggest disadvantage of the typical employment interview is its versatility. Now, hiring managers, HR professionals seem to think that interviews, for the most part, can measure pretty much anything. So if you come up with a competency framework or a values framework, it's just assumed that your interview will be able to measure pretty much anything within it. The reality is, the research suggests that isn't the case. Interviews can only measure traits which are interpersonal, things which are very easily expressed between people, because an interview is basically a conversation. So those are things like assertiveness, how articulate the person is, how communicative, traits which are, by their nature, easy to express in everyday conversation. Those are very important, of course, in the workplace, because in any job, you're going to be interacting with people. You're going to need to convince people. It's going to be very interpersonal. That is always the case, and that's probably why they're so powerful. But the reality is they don't measure traits which are, by definition, intrapersonal, within the person. Things like resilience, for example. If someone convinces you in an interview that they are resilient, that doesn't have a lot to do with how resilient they are, much more to do with how convincing they are. Same thing with work ethic, same thing with integrity. Traits which are very internal and are difficult to express. And unfortunately, those that are very good at expressing it will do a pretty good job of convincing you that that is the case. If you want to measure traits which are intrapersonal, you need to use personality questionnaires or other robust psychometric instruments. Those traits are able to measure both inter and intrapersonal traits in equal measure. So in conclusion, interviews very powerful predictors of future performance, but they have their limitations, which is very easily remedied by using high quality psychometric assessments alongside or before the interview itself.